All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Dr. Matthew Rao. It's so great to see you all. It's been an amazing 6 weeks, hasn't it? So we're talking about joy today. And joy makes everything worthwhile, doesn't it? It infuses a special spirit into everything we're doing. It can be highly motivating and rewarding. Jared, what are your thoughts on joy?
So some of you in Lexington have heard me talk about this, and actually some of you actually in this room have heard me talk about it. There's this idea of like what I call like the three P's. So we all know what passion is. I think we're all passionate. We love playing music. We love being in our ensembles. Getting better at our instruments and music in general. We're passionate. I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about people and everything like that. So passion's great. But if passion is just like you're just excited about something, that's awesome. Passion without purpose, though, is a little bit more difficult to handle. Purpose is your why. Okay, so why are you doing this? And I know that we talked about this during our excellence segment. I think Dr. Arau, you were talking about this with regards to excellence. Like, what are you doing? It's not just nailing these parts in your music, but like, what's the overall essence of the why? Like, am I excited to be in this ensemble because we're playing high quality literature, or because I really love making music with this group of people? Okay, so passion, you have the excitement, the purpose. Now you have somewhere to go. That's your why. However, if you don't have the work ethic, what I call perseverance, to go and continue to work through that, the passion that you have is great, the purpose you have is great, but you're never going to come to your actual like end game. Not that there's ever an end game, but to reaching your goals because you're not putting the work in for it. Like as we were talking in the previous discussion about excellence, it's that constant striving for growth, that growth mindset. You could also have lots of perseverance, that work ethic. You're going to nail these parts. I'm going to work for hours and hours on these articulations and these passages. And you might have the purpose because you really want to make high quality literature. But if you just focus on that without remembering what the passion is that you got into it, like if you're just in band just because your parents said, you know what, I want you to be in band, or maybe the purpose you have is just to put this on your college resume, to each their own. That's fine. But but having the work ethic to that purpose, when you have that passion, that's where the magic happens. I think about like the intersection of like of high quality performing music at this quality of repertoire. I'm sorry, this quality of performance. You can practice, but if you don't have the excitement behind that and you're not being intentful with your expression or what it means to you or the standards you have yourself at or just the investment in the relationships of those people that you're making the music with, you're missing out on a whole exciting aspect of the music making process. Okay. Along with that, the more that being said, the more that you make a stronger or you've reached your higher goal with performance with the performance, the higher that level of joy could be. So some of you, if you ever get a chance, look up on YouTube. There's a little boy that plays the ukulele, and Justin's seen this video before. This little boy playing ukulele, he's playing I'm Yours, I think, by Jason Mraz, and you can't understand a word he's saying. He's playing ukulele, he's like 5 years old. He's like, well, you can't, he's not articulating well, he's definitely not in tune. He's definitely like just like, but you're watching this little video of this little kid playing and he's so convinced. He has so much conviction for playing the song. You can't help but smile and just love what you're hearing and watching. When you're watching it, you're not thinking, wow, this kid is really pitchy. You know what? His intonation's pretty bad. Oh, actually, his hand technique needs a lot of work. No, he is complete and utter joy making that music. Okay. It just so happens, though, if you put more work into that work ethic, the perseverance of developing technique and developing yourself as a musician, that level of joy is just going to completely increase and increase and increase further. Okay. So I just think about like you think about passion, purpose, and perseverance. It's a constant like back and forth between all three of those ideas. And that's what I think about when it comes to joy, because joy is like when you have all those three of those things like converging at the same time. It's like mind blowing, like joyful music making. I talked really fast. Sorry. I just get excited about it. I just love it. Yeah.
I love it. It's like an explosion of joy, right? It's like these molecules come together and boom, right? And it's just really, really exciting. And it's also interesting to think like what fuels what, right? Is it the passion that fuels the purpose, or is it the purpose that fuels the passion? And maybe it's some of both. And then the perseverance is like sticking with it. So really, really powerful stuff, Jared. I also love that you said this one word that really stuck with me. You said intent. And like, what's your intent? And I think that we can actually set our intention. We can even set our intention before rehearsal, right? And maybe one of our intentions can be, I want to have a joy-filled experience. And I think that's a choice, again, that we can make. We can go into rehearsal and we can, just think about the notes and the rhythms and getting it right. right? Or we could say, you know, I want to take it to the next level and find the spirit of the music. And when we can do that, I think we take everything up to an even higher level. And that's where even excellence. And when I think of joy, I think of like Yo-Yo Ma, right? I think of Yo-Yo Ma playing in. And during the quarantine, Yo-Yo Ma released these, what he called songs of comfort, right? And he was just in his bedroom playing. And it's not about perfection. It was just about soul. It was just about getting back to the beauty of music. And also I remember listening to an opera singer in Italy on his balcony.
Yeah.
Remember that? Was it Nessendorma? And it was so beautiful. And then at the very end, I think his young son comes out there, and it was just heartwarming because everybody in Italy was quarantined, but yet nobody could stop us from making music. Like, we will continue to sing. And I think it reminded us all about the music being this uniting force for the human spirit. And it reminded me how we're much more alike than different. I think that's so important to remember. You know, sometimes it seems that it can be so divisive, right? Sometimes our society is so divisive. And for me, music brings us together. And back to that idea of respect, it's just so important to respect each other, even if you don't agree with them, right? They're humans first. And music for me always reminds me of our shared humanity. So just beautiful. Arda, what are your thoughts on joy?
Well, I think that joy to me is joy in relationships, right? We talked about relationships a while ago, and those are the two things that I think are why we do music in the first place. At least I do. I think sometimes we conflate joy with fun, and that, you know, joy is something that you might experience at the end of a process. It doesn't mean that every moment along the way was joyful or fun. The fun comes, you know, it's fun to be good. You know, it's something like, we all want to have fun, but it's really fun to be good. So like, if you're practicing something on the saxophone, and like my kids will tell you, when I'm practicing something, there's a lot of grunts and groans and curse words that come out. But then at the end of it, when like you got it, and your fingers are flying, like that's the fun part, right? But you put in the sweat equity to get to the joy. You know, to use athletics again as the example, I'm not a runner, as you might be able to tell, but I know that a lot of people who say they love running. And I wonder do they actually love the act of running, like while they're pounding their feet on the sidewalks and sweating, or do they love how they feel at the end of the run? Like when they get the endorphin kick and they feel, you know, they're fit and they're, you know, healthy. Like, I think that to me is what would be the joyful part, not necessarily the dirty work of actually doing it. So I think, you know, where we find joy as musicians, as performers, as directors is, I think there's a combination of feelings, right? There's like a feeling of exhaustion, right? That exhausted joy at the end of a performance where, you know, you've poured everything into it, and, you know, you're sweating and you just can't give anymore, and you did it, and now everyone's applauding for you. There's that sort of relief of like, okay, like we did it and it's over and we did it together. And I'll tell one story, and it happened on stage at Lexington High School during a Micah festival, probably, I don't know what, 5-6 years ago. We had a really great wind ensemble that year, and we gave a performance at Lexington that was really, we had worked really hard on a challenging piece of music, and gave a really, really great performance of it. But there was a portion of it where like kind of the bottom fell out of the band, and things, you know how it gets in performance. Sometimes, you know, you have a few measures of like panic, and I didn't really know what was happening, but, you know, we pulled it together and the performance was great. And after the performance, all the kids are really happy, and we had one tuba player in that band, and she walked over to me after the performance, and she was like, "Mr. Ray, I'm really sorry about what happened in whatever piece." And I was like, "Well, I don't even, like, what happened?" She goes, "Well," she's like, "I had to stop playing for like 8 measures because it just sounded so good that I was crying and I couldn't play anymore." And I was like, "Done, like, put it in the books. Like, if today is the last day of my music teaching career, then it was all worth it," because to me that was like exactly the point of what we're trying to do. And it was wonderful to have experienced it with with students who I had, felt so affectionate for, and who I knew felt that way about each other. And so to me, like, that sums up, like, that was the joy. And it didn't matter, okay, well, maybe the performance could have been better. We could have been more excellent if the tuba player could have, like, pulled her stuff together and played those 8 measures. But I was much happier with the results as she explained it.
What a great story. Yes, absolutely. Let's go to Justin. What are your thoughts on joy?
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm feeling joy right now listening to my colleagues talk about it. I I think joy is a topic that ends up being difficult, but really ought to be quite easy. I think it's kind of paradoxical, the role that joy takes in our lives sometimes, because I think a lot of times, in many cases, I mean, I can speak for myself. Once I really got into music and was enjoying it, and identified music as something that I was going to make a core part of my life, joy was my reason for walking through the door, for being there in the first place, for sitting down and participating. And then if you bring it back to culture, I can think some of the groups I was in, most of which in college, where I didn't feel the culture was particularly good, joy was always conspicuously lacking. And it actually seems not fashionable to show joy. It's like it was not a thing to show that you were enjoying what you were doing. It was a thing to be critical of the conductor or of the players around you, or never like a performance you give, because it can always be better, which is the ugly side of that, of the conversation of excellence. So I think, what happened for me, I was starting to become quite disenfranchised with the whole idea of being a professional musician in college, because I found so few people who really enjoyed it. And I got so disconnected with the concept of joy that I wasn't even sure why I wasn't enjoying it anymore. But then what happened my senior year was that I sort of got into this small inner circle of, young adults who were playing music at a very high level and were like, is it okay to still love this? I mean, do you love doing this? Do you love doing this? And so we'd all have these ventures that we'd invite each other to come be part of. And we'd do recording sessions and we did performances. And it was just like, it was this group of people. And I was like, I'm so glad to see that joy can still be a part of the professional musical world. I think that, joy is what so often brings us, as I said, brings us through the door. But it's something that I hope can be a fashionable and accepted and liberated part of every culture we ever try to be part of.
Oh, I'm so inspired by what you said, Justin, that it can be part of the culture, and it's liberating to feel joy and to show joy. And we really want to create a culture. We talked about a culture that's safe, right? Where you can belong and be who you are. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm the type of person who likes to show my feelings, right? And if you watch me play the saxophone, it's like, it's usually easy to find me in an ensemble. They're like, find the saxophone player who's moving a lot, right? But people will come up afterwards and say, Matthew, I love watching you play the saxophone because you look like you enjoy it so much. And I'm like, it's that obvious, isn't it? I mean, it's like, I love it. And I'm going to show it, and I'm going to show it unabashedly. And that's just the way I want to live. I just want to, project that, because life's too short, right? Life's too short. And for me, music is one of those things that we can truly be in the moment and truly be in the present. And that's what I think is so important, is to find a way to be in the present. I'll tell you what, there's so many distractions these days. Everybody, all of us on the screen, adults, everybody of all ages, there's so many distractions. This thing, right? It's like, if there's ever any space of silence, we pick up the phone, right? And we need to find a way to be in the moment. I'll tell you what, music is one of those things that we can still be in the present moment. And one of the reasons we find joy is because when we're in the moment, we can access what's called flow. We can be in flow with music. And that's when nothing else matters but this moment, this now, this moment, this breath, this sound, this chord. That's all that matters. And when you're thinking about the past, oftentimes when we're obsessed about the past, we're feeling guilt. When we're obsessed about the future, we're feeling anxiety because we can't control it. It hasn't happened yet. But if you can be in the now, and be in love with the ability to play this note. I have a talk with one of my students. I'm giving a tutorial with this one student, and he's making some videos, and he's trying to make videos on creating a really good long tone, like how to develop a good sound. And I said to my student, I said, do you love long tones? He said, no. And I said, I do. I do. I love every time, every moment on the saxophone. I treasure that I get to make this sound. It's a privilege, it's an honor. And as I shared this with him, it started changing his mind. And he said, you know, I'm going to try to live that way. I'm going to try to enjoy even long tones, even the hard practice sessions when you got those 30-second notes and they're kicking your butt, right? Love it. Break it down, change up the rhythms, and think like, I get to do this because I am part of something bigger than myself. I'm in a band and we're working together towards this goal to make beautiful music for ourselves, but also to share with the community and to share with the world, because we only get one life, only one life on this earth. And why not live it in a state of joy, right? Like you don't have to showing or be in a state of anxiety all the time, right? And trying to outwork somebody else, right? You can just in band, be present and love the moment. So I know I just went a little bit off on that, but those are some of my thoughts on joy as well. It's spurred on by some of your comments. So thank you. Let's kick it over to Allie. What are your thoughts?
Thank you. Absolutely. Listening to all of these stories, I'm trying to come up with stories of my own. And I've seen the same level of joy from someone that makes $200,000 a year playing their instrument on stage at the BSO. The same amount of joy I've seen in a kid that's been playing the trumpet for 3 months. And what I think about joy is I think it's contagious and I think it's obvious. It is something that you cannot fake. Maybe a great actor can, right? But in our situation, you can't fake pure joy. And when I go to this Boston Symphony and I sit in Symphony Hall, I love what Matthew said. I get to do this. I get to go and sit in Symphony Hall and listen to the Boston Symphony play music by John Williams, being conducted by John Williams. And the level of joy and excitement on their faces before the music even starts, it's obvious. Some of those people grew up listening to the music that he's responsible for creating. They had childhood memories with their families watching Star Wars and Jurassic Park. And there they are sitting on stage, able to play the music with him there under his baton. That's joy. And that's joy for the audience too, because you see it and you feel it in that room. It can't be faked. But I've also seen that in a beginning band rehearsal with a kid that's been playing for 2 or 3 months. They play their first like complete Robert W. Smith piece, like The Tempest or something, and it's a mess, right? Percussion's like in a whole other room and everyone's falling apart. But like a kid, this happened in a few years ago for me. A kid jumped up before the piece hadn't even ended yet, and trumpet in hand, fist bumped and screamed, yeah, like crazy, like ridiculous behavior. But that was something unexpected, and it was something I'll never forget that moment. And it was one of the worst performances of The Tempest I've ever heard. But in that moment, that was excellent for that group, right? They had excitement. There were relationships that were formed in that. Like, I think about that kid all the time. I still remember his name. I remember how old he was. I remember the time of day. Like, that stuck in my mind. So what we're trying to do with each other and with you at home is to allow you to find these moments in your life. And whether they're like fist bumps or fist pumps, whatever it is, at the end of a rehearsal or at the end of the first reading of whatever piece you play, or, you know, a Grammy Award winning level performance at Symphony Hall, the whole idea is that we're going towards that feeling of joy. It could be any level, but that's what we're seeking. And that's what we get to do as conductors and as musicians ourselves with all of you. And I think I'm going to speak for everybody in this room. Whenever we get to hold a baton in front of you and play with you, not just leading you, but something that we do together, we experience that joy on a daily basis. You know, it might not be the best rehearsal. It might not be the greatest sight reading of a piece that you've ever played, but there's something to be celebrated in all of those moments. And that's why I'm here. That's why I go to work every day, and it's not work, because it's fun. And how lucky we are.
Can I add something to that, actually? I love it. I love it. And it's like, and I think Matthew said this, we can't take things for granted. And I think if we look at us, ourselves right now, where we are like physically and this time period, you know, I'm so thankful that we're still able to make music to some extent in some kind of semblance of what we had before. But it's so true. Like, you never know what will happen. And we've got to treasure each of these moments, whether you are, like you're saying, that trumpet player in middle school, like psyched, or elementary school, psyched about their performance, or like it's a collaborative experience playing a really wonderful version of, you know, whatever kind of music you're doing in your ensemble. We just can't take these moments for granted, because that's what music is. It's not really the music, it's like that experience, you know. So I just had to reiterate that, just because Ali, you said it so beautifully.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that. And Matthew, one thing you've said that I really have enjoyed hearing you say is when you talk about like, I get to do this, I get to do that. And I know I'll speak for myself again. Like there's been times recently where I feel really down about just like where we're at right now. Like the whole world seems to be awful, and you know, it's you know, we're looking at, you know, remote music classes, and what does this even mean, and when is the next time we're going to be able to have a concert together? And but so I was talking to a neighbor the other day and realizing that like if this had happened 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, we wouldn't be able to do this. We wouldn't be able to do like 10% of what we're doing now. So yeah, you know, like through all the disappointment about like what our expectations might have been for what, you know, high school band, chorus, orchestra was going to look like, I think we do have to hold on to the gratitude of like, you know, look at what we still get to do. It's amazing that like, you know, 5 people can have a conversation like this and, you know, be productive, and we can do some music making. So we're really fortunate to be able to do what we can do every day.
Thank you, Ardo. You know, you mentioned gratitude, and I think that's a wonderful note for us to end on is how do you find joy? You find it through gratitude. You think about what you get to do. You treasure the moment. We at least get to be together, even if it's on a computer screen virtually. Thank goodness. Be appreciative of what you get to do. I like to think of the power of get. I actually think of G as gratitude, E, enthusiasm, and T, treasure. Treasure these moments, because these moments are fleeting. And, you know, you only get 4 years in high school. You get 4 years together. And sometimes we can be separate, you know, in our own bedrooms, spread around the city, right? But we still get to come together for a common cause, because we love each other. We love our band, and we love music, and that's what it comes down to. So thanks so much, everybody. It's been wonderful spending time with you, and we look forward to the next time we all get to come together. Be well.